Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Bryan Hill back with Gavin Murphy. We are your Bleacher Bros. And before we start, make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe our video. Help us get out there in the algorithm. Help spread the word. We love doing this. We know y'all love hearing us. So just help us continue to grow, and we'll make sure we return the favor in the future. Gav, man, how you been doing?
Good, man. Good. A solid week of work, staying busy. And then, of course, Masters week here, man. I felt like traffic was 10 times worse, but everything's been good, man. Mom and dad coming over for Easter from Mississippi, so they'll be here next weekend. So it'll be a good little weekend, man. We're gonna go watch the Braves, I think, on Saturday night, and then a former player of mine on Friday. I'm gonna go see him Friday, and then I think we're gonna go Saturday and see him. So it'll be good to see him and catch up and all that good stuff. What about you, man? How's everything going?
In general, pretty good. Just got off literally just got done probably 45 minutes ago with like 15 plus hours of back breaking ditch digging work. We noticed I noticed yesterday that just there is an unnecessary amount of water piling up at the end of our yard, and it's been dry here for like 4 or 5 days, so all the rain couldn't have been held there. And long story short, we probably have been having water leaking from our main water line for probably 2 to 4 months at least going off of our water bill. But kind of haven't been able to tell because it's been raining so much here. But we dug ditches for, I don't know, a good 25, 30 feet, about 4 feet deep to get to that water line, and we kind of jerry rigged it and got it back running again. Probably saved ourselves $2,000 to $3,000 pretty easily, but I'm definitely wore out and I need a back massage, ice bath, probably an alcoholic beverage, but I normally don't do the alcoholic beverage before a work week kind of thing. So I'm just going to settle for the first two. But man, big day. It's Masters weekend. I know that's kind of your lane fully. I'm a very, very casual fan. Although I don't know if I sent you a picture or not, but I actually just acquired my first set of golf clubs. My father-in-law works at a golf course, and there's like a whole set of lefty clubs left up there that have been unclaimed for like a year, and he just handed them to me, and I'm ready to rock and roll. I told Rod and John Wilkie, like, give me a couple weeks, but I would definitely be out there kicking butt, showing y'all my Phil Mickelson. But Rory, the big winner, finally getting it done. I know he's had a couple of hiccups in his past, getting close to winning this thing. But man, what was your take on it? How did you feel? Did you have him favorite going into this? Like, what did you think of this?
Yeah, I wanted to see him win it, especially coming off the win a couple weeks ago. I think it's a full circle moment. Rory has been at the top of the PGA Tour for as long as I can remember. It's one of those things where it took him so long to complete the Grand Slam, the career Grand Slam that only 6 people have ever done. Some of those being Ben Hogan, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, and then Tiger, now Rory, and then Gene Sarzan. I'm probably butchering that name for all the golf people, but anyway. But it's wild, man, to look at it, and you sit here, and I'm actually looking at it right now, and you see the time gaps and when these guys did it. The only one that kept it in a kind of short time frame, or there's only two, it would be Jack Nicklaus and Tiger. Tiger won the 97 Masters, the 99 PGA Championship, and then the 2000 US Open and the 2000 Open. So it was all kind of right there in like a 3-year span. But it was good, man. I was glad to see him. I know a lot of people after day one were really high on Justin Rose, another, England guy. So it was good, man. I'm happy for Rory. I think he's been a good kind of role model for the game. And you think about all that he has been through. I know with like the divorce last year and everything else, I think it was a really kind of a full circle moment for him and his daughter. And really happy for him. So yeah, man, it was good to watch. It went to a playoff, which you don't see too often, especially at the Masters. And then he gets it, and you can see just all the emotion, and as an athlete, man, it's just that weight off your back when you finally achieve something that you wanted to achieve, and you could just tell, athlete to athlete, damn, like he finally did it. So it was really cool to watch, man. I'm glad I tuned in today and didn't have a lot going on. So yeah, I liked it.
Good. That's gnarly. Unfortunately, I was working, so I only got to catch the highlights of it. But even from what I saw, it was very riveting. And seeing him nail that last putt to put the nail in the coffin, really, I think it's honestly solidified. Some people, there's athletes in football, kind of like Lamar Jackson right now, maybe even Josh Allen. Like they have all the accolades except for the one to really submit themselves. You're like, gonna be a Hall of Famer, they're gonna be an all-time great, but they don't have that one thing that everybody else has.
Mm-hmm.
And so once those athletes finally get it, it could be it's even more career altering, or really puts them maybe on a Mount Rushmore or just into a legendary class that very few select people that even get to play the sport to begin with get the opportunity to get into. But pivoting from the PGA to the NCAA men's football, we had a huge story that broke Friday?
Yeah, it was Friday.
Broke Friday, where Nico, the freshman starting quarterback for Tennessee, University of Tennessee, who actually did he have one of the best freshman quarterback seasons of all time? No. But he threw for over 3,000 yards. He accounted for 30 touchdowns, and he led Tennessee to, I believe, an Elite Eight this year. In the first in the first playoff.
I forget what they're calling it now, but he led.
But they
them
made
past
it to
the
the
first
final.
round.
They made it in the final 8.
Yes.
Which was big for their program, especially because a lot of SEC schools went down in the playoff pretty early this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they went down probably earlier than they wanted to. But Nico, I guess just to tell the full story, he was making a little over $2 million. I think it was reported around about $2.5 million, and he was asking for $5 million. But I think the straw that really broke the camel's back was he had already, I think him and his team, so I'm going to guess his dad and his possible agent, were already sniffing around to other schools like Ohio State and Oregon. And I believe it was Dan Lanning from Oregon who contacted Josh Heupel to let him know that Nico was sniffing around. And then when Heupel confronted him about it, he was like, yeah, I'm looking for more money. I'm not sure you're going to give it. And then when they came to Heat, Nico was like, I'm out. And Josh was like, hey, we don't want you here if you're going to get this kind of money because we don't feel it necessary to pay you this kind of money. So this is something that it's really already been happening, but this is probably the biggest and most explosive situation that's happened in. It's not something that's going to go away, although some athletes may shy around, but just because of the bad connotation and how much bad juju it gives you from such a big media release, especially when there's no real football talk to be had right now. This is headlining a lot of the stories outside of the NFL draft. So, man, what is your take on it? How do you feel about it? What did you take away from it? And give me some insight if you have it as well.
Yeah, man, I hate it. I thought the number was 4. I thought the number that he was asking for was 4. That's what I saw.
Yeah. He's asking for 4.
Okay, because you said 5.
He was already getting around 2.5.
Okay, gotcha. So he was just asking for 4, so another 1.5, whatever. I hate it. I'm just being fully transparent. I hate it. I think it's stupid. Dude, you're from 18 to 20 years old and you're making $2.5 million. What are we talking about? We're talking about, I want 4. Dude, do you not understand where you're at in the SEC? You had a great year. The money is going to come. You are a good talent. You are an NFL talent. And you're being dumb and you're going to put a bad name around yourself because you just want a bag. So it's I don't know, man. For me, I'm not a fan of it. I think it's bullshit. I really do. I think it's, and I look at it more from a coach's side. I'm not a Heupel fan. Let me start off by saying that. I'm not a Heupel fan. And I think a little bit of that stems from my Florida background. I'm a Florida Gator fan. And what he did, and I don't know if you remember this, but it was 2 seasons ago. It was late in the game, and we were going to take a knee. There was something that happened, and it was some bullshit that he kind of pulled. I wasn't a fan of it. And from that point, I was like, man, whatever. Could take him or leave him. But I look at it from a coach's standpoint. And from a coach's standpoint, you spend so many hours recruiting and so many hours on the phone with kids, and you pour into these kids, and you take away time from your own family to try and make your team the best that you can. And then you get the kid that you want, you get your future, right? And and then that kid goes off and he wants more money, whatever. And it's creating a culture. I'm leading to say this. It's creating a culture where the players have not been loyal for the past couple of years. But you're going to create a culture where these coaches are not going to be loyal. Now, granted, as a recruiter, your job is to always go and find that kid's replacement, right? Iron sharpens iron. I'm a firm believer in that. I used to tell my guys all the time, man, that kid's going to replace you if you don't, he's going to take your spot. You keep dicking around. But you're going to find it to where these coaches are just going to quit being loyal to these kids, and it sucks as a coach. Like there's people out there, there's shithead, there's douchebag coaches all over the country in any sport and any level. Let's just call a spade a spade. But you're going to create a culture where these coaches are not going to give two shits about the kids because the kids don't give two shits about the coaches, the program, the fact that the time, the energy, all it takes. And so I just think that here soon, man, unless they right the shit, you're going to have a very toxic culture in the game of college football.
Well, okay, so I don't know if I'm going to give you pushback, but one point I'll work from back to forwards. We've already seen, because that was part of the whole push for the transfer portal, was that coaches had the freedom to leave and take different or better jobs with no consequences, and players didn't have that freedom. So we've already seen, even like Indiana's coach last year, I forget where he was the year before that, but he gave the kids a notice, I think, right before the bowl game. And he was in Indiana, and he brought all, because he was in the Mountain West school, and he brought as many players as he could, but not everybody wants to transfer, just based on, because like some kids went to that school based because their parents were going to get to see them play, all the home games, and they were going to be within 5 hours of home, and now they're going from Minnesota to Indiana, and it's a far enough drive where their parents are only chance they get to see them is maybe a once a year trip, or watching them on TV. But I think that is a smaller issue. I think the bigger issue is a couple years ago when NIL and transfer portal were both like full-fledged introduced. I know transfer portal came before NIL.
Mm-hmm.
There never was, and there should have been from the jump, because it's the Wild West. There should have been some form of CBA, a collective bargaining agreement, like the NBA has and like the NFL has, where there's a cap and there's actual concrete salaries and contracts given out to each player on the team to go along with their scholarship. Because because like we even heard stories of, this is part of the reason why Nick Saban left, and I can't remember the coach's name who was at West Virginia, who he told a story after last season that his third string running back came to him after the last game of the season in their player exit meeting and asked him for I think it was like $325K. And the coach was like, "Get the hell out of my office. That ain't happening." He was like, I can find another one of yous in a second. And, I remember Nick Saban's wife telling the story that Nick had second and third stringers coming to him, asking him for high six-figure deals when they still weren't going to be the starter next year, or they'd go find somewhere else to play. So I think until they have some kind of collective and bargain agreement and some form of players union, because the players, I think, do need a representative or do need representation on the legal side, and I think the two sides need to be able to come together to put a cap, because you also have where schools like Ohio State and Michigan and Tennessee and Texas A&M and University of Texas can afford to pay their players. You hear about their payrolls are $20 to $25 million, but in Boise State, Colorado have a $7 to $8 million, probably not even that high payroll. And all those different things create all kind of different imbalances. And the days of hearing like an Action Genty turning down SEC seven-figure deals to go play and stay at Boise State because he wants to and he's loyal and he loves what they did for them, those days are probably ending with this class right here. Every kid that gets the opportunity to go get a bigger bag, 9 times out of 10 is going to take it. So I think, and my last point, I personally don't like it. I personally think Nico's trajectory has now gone on a downward trajectory, at least for the next year, because I don't foresee, especially because a lot of the big programs have already turned him down, I don't foresee him finding a better place where the coach quarterback situation is going to be better, unless maybe he goes to like Ole Miss or I don't know, Miami or somewhere like that where they have a comparable coach, comparable talent around him. So I don't think it was a good decision by Nico, but the way things are set up, I don't blame Nico for asking for the money, how it affects him or not. And I also don't blame Tennessee for treating them how they should have. Because I think both sides, the way the system's set up, both sides have the freedom to do and choose how they want to. But the reaction, what happens from there? Now Tennessee, and they have still to have plenty of time, but now Tennessee has to go find their next starting quarterback for next year, which is going to put them behind the eight ball with the year they just came off of.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll give you my hot take, and then I'll kind of give you my final thoughts on this. So my hot take is Nico Amaliava is going to Ohio State. That's my hot take. I'm calling it right now. They're going to find a way to give him the money. That's where I stand. My final thoughts on this, and it goes back to your, CBA and, having something in place. Let's tear away the curtains and let's be really brutally honest with each other for 2 seconds. You got a kid, low income household, from the hood, family never went to college, whatever it might be, right? That kid is physically gifted to go play at a Division I school, top tier school. You are pretty much, and we're talking football here, baseball's a little different, but let's talk football. You are giving that kid a free education. You are setting that kid up for success. And I think that there needs to be something put in place because you're making these kids professional athletes where school is second, and you're already setting them up with a degree that they could take to any company. And they say, well, hey man, you played at Ole Miss? Yeah, here's a job. I don't care if you pass with C's or not, but you have a degree. You played at Ole Miss. Companies love that. But we're missing the point of the fact that these are still collegiate athletes. Like, there needs to be some type of stipulation. For you to get your money, you have to make a 2.5 or better. You have to make a 3.0 or better for you to get your money. I think then you'll start to see some of this bullshit with, I want more money. Well, are you a good kid? Like, why are we going to pour more money into you if you're a piece of shit? Like, and I'm not saying Nico's a piece of shit. Don't get me wrong. So Tennessee fans, don't come for my throat. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, like, you're already setting these kids up for long-term success and lifetime success with a free education for the most part. Put something in there with this money that, hey, you have to maintain this. Like, give them some rules. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like, with the NFL. Like, hey, you missed team practice. Like, there's a consequence. Like, it's borderline the same thing. Like, I can tell you, like, when I played and when you played, school is very important. Like, you weren't skipping class. You weren't doing all that. You were going to class. You were making sure that you had your grades. And they may not have been the best. They may not have been, for me and myself, I mean, I can speak for myself. My grades weren't where they should have been, but they were good enough. I mean, I made Dean's List, but I probably could have made better. So it's like, I don't understand. I don't know. It used to be so amazing when you hear these kids talk and, you hear, guys from the early 2000s and, the 90s and even like the early 2010s that say like, I was the first one in my family to go to college. I took pride in that. My mom went back, of course, but I took pride in the fact that I was the first one in my family to go in college and go to college and get a 4-year degree. In 4 years, didn't take any longer. So that is kind of like, and I'll get off my soapbox, but I struggle with that because I see it from a coach's side. I see it from a player's side. I did both. And it's just like, we got to, at some point, hold these kids accountable, in my eyes.
Well, no, I fully agree. I think that, and that's why I said I think there needs to be contracts put into play. And I think these contracts are probably, I don't think they will have more necessarily verbiage in those contracts than what like a professional contract will hold, but it'll have the same amount, but it'll be different. And I think even beyond that, I think baseball had it first, if I remember correctly, and then basketball had it and football had it. Because baseball was the most moral sport, so they just knew. And I know this because I remember talking with Felipe Lopez, because he's from the same city. He went to Lake Brantley High School, and I used to train with him. We had the same strength conditioning coach. And Ricky Weeks. They both went to Lake Brantley High School, both first-round draft picks out of Orlando, Florida, greater Orlando, Florida. And I remember, because I used to train with them, and they were some of the first millionaires I was ever around. And I remember them telling me, like, there is, like, a program, and there's, like, guidelines, and but, like, every team basically has, like, guidelines even to your personal life. Like, they are not allowed to live in certain places even within the city. And it's like, if you live in a certain city, like, you need to live in a gated neighborhood. And if you live in that neighborhood, you need to have some form of security, maybe even armed security, if you want to choose to live in that neighborhood. Like, they prefer you to live in this city, but if you want to live in this city, that is maybe the crime rate is a little bit higher, you put yourself at risk, you'd have to live in this neighborhood to not void your contract. And they also, but all these leagues have programs, especially like rookie programs, where they have athletes come and talk about finances, lifestyle management, how to take care of your body, and all that. Now these college players need a program and they need leadership to come in that's different, a separate entity from the school to teach these kids how to manage their money and how to live a proper lifestyle. Because I remember hearing, even going back 2 years ago, Kirby Smart, who was like, and I know Georgia has a GM now, but Kirby Smart saying, man, the amount of kids we have that have Hellcats that are getting into they're racing and getting all these crazy tickets, and we're having to bail them out at 2 o'clock in the morning the night before a game is just outrageous, or the night after a game. And you know, all these big SEC, like I've seen the parking lot of University of Florida's football team, and it's all $100,000 cars or more. So I think, and this I'll wrap it up. I think there needs to be some type of CBA. Players need to be on some kind of contract. I believe coaches need to be on some kind of contract that's not as easy to get out of as what they've been having. Because again, like University of Texas, with all that oil money, they won't mind buying out a coach. I mean, we saw Texas A&M buy out Jimbo,
Yeah.
like what, 60 something million, 70 something $1 million.
Insane.
So like that money is peanuts to those oil people. So I think coaches also need a contract that's harder to get out of. And I think players need a third party representation and program and leadership to help these kids manage this new form of lifestyle that they're being afforded with all this public money. Because, I mean, we both know, like, some of these bigger programs, these kids been getting brown bags.
Oh, yeah.
They show up to a dealership and the car's already in their name. Like, that's been going on for decades now.
Yeah.
But now that everything is public, these kids need to have better things in place to give them better guidance and better leadership. But enough on that. Let's go ahead and pivot over to the NBA. One of the bigger stories we saw this week was Luka Doncic going back to Dallas for the first time since I don't even know if you want to call it a blockbuster trade. It's like, well, because blockbuster's dead. And I know that's not what people mean by a blockbuster trade. But this was like a once in a generation, maybe even once in a lifetime type deal. But I can't think of a trade in my lifetime coming even close to this off the top of my head. And I'm a pretty good sports historian like you are.
Well, and remind the viewers real quick what you told me. Who made the quote about the Babe Ruth? They made a comparison. You're telling me.
Yeah. So Jason Kidd, who is the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks, made an odd quote that this Luka Doncic trade was similar to the Boston Red Sox trading Babe Ruth to the Yankees in the 30s for $100,000 so that the owner of the Red Sox could make a movie, which back then they were just starting motion picture movies to begin with. It's wild that you can even make a movie for $100,000 back then.
Yeah.
I actually would have thought a movie would have cost less, but that's neither here nor there. But for one, that's kind of the reason I say it's odd because it's kind of a dumb statement, because then that would be Jason Kidd condemning his own team and franchise, saying they won't win a title for 86 years because that's how long it was in between the Red Sox winning their World Series titles. But man, they had a great tribute to Luka. I don't know if you saw it, but they had a great tribute to Luka, one that brought him to tears. He was in tears, in emotion, and he even said in his post-game conference, it's like, man, you watch that and you get the tears, and then, like, you have to go play a game after. It's like, how do you do that? But obviously he went and did it because he went and dropped 45 on Dallas. But man, what was your take from that? One more thing, the Fire Nico chants were rampant all night, and Mark Cuban probably was caught on camera with the best reaction, because you would have thought somebody would told Mark Cuban that his child was being held on ransom for $1 billion, how he was reacting to it. He was not happy or thrilled at all about it. But man, what was your take on it? What did you think of Luka going back? The points he dropped, the tribute, Jason Kidd's odd quote in comparison. What did you all get from it?
Yeah, man, it was really interesting. One, good for Luka. You could tell, and I forget who I saw talking about it. I think it was Austin Reeves. No, not Austin Reeves. Sorry, Austin Rivers. But he was talking about it, and he was saying that, you could tell, like you could hear as watching the game, you could hear like the Dallas fans cheering, like when Luka would score. And then you started to hear him not chant, and then you heard absolutely nothing. because they knew, like they knew, like this is what we gave up on. Like, what are we doing? So good for Luka, man. That's tough. You get a tribute like that, and then you go back and you drop 40. I'm sure there's still, some hurt there and some pain, but good for him. I think Nico Harrison he's got to be on his way out. He looks like an idiot right now. Unless you brought up a comment to me when we were talking earlier in the week about, the new owners of the Mavericks wanting to potentially move out to Vegas and putting a team out in Vegas. And we'll do a podcast on that, on where we want to see expansion teams. But anyway, you brought up the fact that you thought that the plan was, in 8 to 10 years, maybe taking the Mavericks franchise and moving them to Vegas. One, I don't like that. I like the Mavericks being in Dallas. I really do. But two, if we're going like the conspiracy, like rabbit hole theory and not getting like too deep into it, it makes sense why they would do it, because you get Anthony Davis, who's a little bit older. So at the back end of his career, like at the last couple years of his career, then you can take the team. You say, hey, we're struggling, we're failing. Now we can take the team to Vegas. But if you had Luka still there, then you can't really say that, because at that point he's probably won an MVP. He's more than likely made a couple good, deep playoff runs. So it's interesting, man. You can start to speculate and you can start to, talk about it all and think about it all. But very, very interesting to see how that all shakes out, man, in 10 years and see where we're at. And we look back at this and go, holy shit, Bryan was right. Like, that's exactly what they did. But, yeah, I mean, all in all, man, like I said, I think final thoughts on it, man. Good for Luka. I don't think the Lakers are going to be a contender this year. Me personally, I don't. But on the same hand, last final thought, Nico Harrison's gone within the next 2 years.
Yeah. And just to connect one dot to another, I didn't mention it, but I talked about this a little bit, off camera earlier in the week. If people don't know, the same people who now recently, I think they just acquired it 2 seasons ago. Actually, I think they just acquired it the season before. Anywho, with the same family that now owns the Dallas Mavericks, the Kroenkes, they also own the LA Rams. And guess what happened when they took over the LA Rams? They moved them from St. Louis back to LA. So we have that caveat. And guess what? Guess where they made all their money from? The casino business. So you take a family the family has said multiple times in the last 2 years that their whole big picture thing is to have a sports team, if not multiple sports teams, that have casinos attached to the main arena. So that's where the whole Vegas thing comes from. If they could probably put it in a different city, they probably would. But we know the NBA wants a team in Vegas. The Kroenkes want to be in Vegas because that's where a lot of their business is already done to begin with. So again, conspiracy theorists. I'm not a big conspiracy theory person, but this stuff has so many strong legs that are already out in the public. It's not hard to find this kind of information to begin with. And it is a little deep off into the weeds of non-general sports news, but it will be very interesting to see. And like you said, not only Anthony Davis being older, but Anthony Davis being injury prone.
Yeah.
And God forbid, I don't want this for Anthony Davis. I actually love Anthony Davis. And I love when he's healthy. I think the NBA is better when he's healthy and playing well. The Dallas Mavericks are better when he's healthy and playing well.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2 to 3 years, if his body starts to truly fail him and they keep him on the roster and they miss the playoff for a couple of years and start getting some high lottery picks, like you said, it'll be a lot easier for the fan base. First of all, if they rip the Dallas Mavericks from Dallas to Vegas, I don't think Dallas Maverick fans would ever recover.
Hell no, you'd have a riot, dude.
Yeah.
You'd have a riot.
And Dallas is a great, still growing, like crazily growing city. It's been 2 years since I've been there, but I have family there. My sister's there, and one of my favorite cousins there. Dallas may not recover, and they already have the Texas Rangers. They already have an NHL hockey team. They already have the Dallas Cowboys. Even though those in Arlington, they're still not that far away. So it will be absolutely nuts to see if they actually were able to pull it off, if they're even really trying to get the Dallas Mavericks from Dallas to Vegas. And that would be kind of odd and kind of jarring to see the Vegas Mavericks that doesn't even have a good ring.
Yeah. No, they'd come up with a new name.
Yeah, you would have to change the franchise name. Next on the docket, I actually want to talk about this first.
Okay.
Throw a little baseball in there. So Dr. Tom House, he's an orthopedic guy, but he's most famous for working with Nolan Ryan towards in his career. He worked with Drew Brees when he got hurt on the Chargers and had to turn his. It was thought to be his career might be over before he went to New Orleans. He's worked with Tom Brady. But he recently did an interview this past week, and his big claim was based on what he sees and his pitching mechanics and his throwing mechanics, how dynamic he is. He believes Shohei Ohtani, the dynamic two-way player, if it were up to him, he would strongly advise him to give up pitching for the rest of his career. Because he does not believe, based on his mechanics and how much force his body produces, that his shoulder specifically will be able to withstand being able to throw that hard, be that dynamic and dominant. And Shohei is definitely a power pitcher. He's not going to be the guy that's spotting up and mixing his pitches. Mm-hmm. He's a power pitcher. Everything he does is power and downhill, just like his hitting, which is not a bad thing, but it's the type of player he is. But Dr. Tom House believes, based on what he knows and what he sees, that he thinks Shohei should focus on being a full-time position player, and because he believes he'll be a first-ballot Hall of Famer. He's already a World Series champ. He's already a two-time MVP. And why derail your career possibly with a shoulder injury? Because even when you're due to get Tommy John, you can still hit. Mm-hmm. But if you have a shoulder injury, almost no matter what it is, it's going to be hard to hit. So, man, what do you think about that? Do you have any strong takes on it? Do you have any kind of experience with guys you know who somebody told them that their throwing mechanics may get them in trouble or may have a short time period on their career, and what they did about it?
Yeah, so I never ran into anybody personally that I coached with, mechanics-wise. And the technology has changed so much, man. It's crazy. Like, I think back to when, I came out of high school to, now. You're talking that's 10 years. I graduated in 2014. But you're talking about, I forget the correct name for it, but the biomechanics that people are doing now with the overlaps and all this. The technology is so crazy. So for a doctor to say that with the information that we have, it's hard not to agree with him. But at the same time, I look at it in a coach's brain, what's best for my guys. And if I had a guy like Shohei, and we're not going to say like Shohei because I never had anybody that threw 100, but if I had a guy that, could really hit at a high level and, was 92 to 94, maybe popping a 5, and somebody told him, hey, starting's probably not the answer, I would then look at that doctor and be like, okay, hey, if my guy tells me that he still wants to pitch, if we take the workload down, does that give it a longer, does the longevity start to increase? You know what I'm saying? So do they take him and put him into the pen and make him a closer? Yeah. Could be an option.
I like
if
that.
You tell him, hey, dude, you got to go for one inning. Yeah. I'm going to tell you right now, with the Dodgers pitching staff that they have today, if they decide, hey, you're going to be a closer, they're winning another chip. They're going back-to-back.
Yeah.
They're going back-to-back. So that's how I look at it. I always look at, okay, well, what direction could we go? How could we make this? Granted, that's if Shohei even still wants to pitch.
Yeah.
Who knows if that guy even still wants to pitch? Because you're talking about in Japan where those guys throw 200 pitches an outing and then bounce back 3 days later and throw another 150. They're built different.
Yeah.
But our Americanized baseball is definitely not the same. And we've seen that in the past with, Hideki Nomo.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the guy for the Red Sox, Matsuzaka Daisuke.
Yeah.
They struggled. Yu Darvish, he struggled. Yeah, but he adjusted, and Yu Darvish is having a longer career. But that would be my question. I would be curious to see those talks going on in the clubhouse and in, the doctor's room, the doctor's office. Hey, is this something that we could make him into a closer or a one-inning guy, a setup guy? Because if he's a DH, who cares? You could just, hey, you're going to go in, you're going to pitch, and then you can sub him right back out and new pitcher, and he stays in the DH spot. So you're not really losing anything. Yeah. And I know it is tough on the body. We didn't really do it a lot in college when, we didn't have anybody that was good enough to do it. I'll say that. So sorry to any players that thought you were good enough and you played for me. You weren't. I apologize. You're hearing it here first. But I'd be curious. You think about when you were younger and kids did it and they pitched and hit. It's tough, dude, on a young kid. You can only imagine what it is on a, 20. I don't even know how old Shohei is. Is he 28, 29?
Yeah, he's getting to 30, yeah.
Yeah, so you can only imagine what that strain is, and we don't see people doing it anymore. But I think it would be really, really good to have that conversation and see, is he going to be a guy that goes into the bullpen? Sorry, I got the Cubs playing actually the Dodgers right now in the background, and Pete Crow Armstrong is absolutely going off. He just hit a pump. I think his second one of the game, if I'm not mistaken. So apologize to the viewers, baseball guy here. So we're watching that in the background. But yeah, I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you think Shohei could make that transition?
I'm trying to see if he's ever won an MVP while pitching, because I don't think he has.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm very wrong. He won his first 2 MVPs while still pitching. Because
I thought so.
I was gonna say, while Shohei because you talk about being built different, just being Japanese. Shohei himself is very much built different. The only pitcher that I could think of that is bigger than him, and people may not realize it, is Paul Skeens. Because Paul Skeens is like 6'6", 250.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Josh Allen are like the same size human being. Like Paul Skeens, when he stands next to his girlfriend doesn't help, but when Paul Skeens stands next to other men and even professional baseball players, but I've seen him stand next to professional football players like DNs, he's not much smaller than Myles Garrett. And Myles Garrett is just a genetic freak, perfectly sculpted to play football. But he's bigger than Micah Parsons. And Shohei is also bigger than Micah Parsons. He's probably even bigger than TJ Watt. Because I'm pretty sure Shohei is like 6'4", 6'5", like 230 something. And the speed and power that he has is able to generate as a pitcher and a position player. Honestly, while you're looking at it, if it was up to me,
6'4", 209.
okay, I'm a little bit off on the weight, but still 6'4", still a big human being. If it was up to me, if I'm a doctor consulting, I'm the type, because I do this as a personal trainer, I give the client, the patient, the information, and what they do with that is 100% up to them. Mm-hmm. If I'm the coach, being that Shohei he's already proven he can win MVP and win a Cy Young at the same time. And I am a firm believer that nobody knows the athlete's body better than the athlete themselves, especially when you get truly into adulthood. So even if I'm a coach, I probably, knowing how important Shohei is, I leave that decision up to Shohei. So I believe the only person who should be able to determine whether he pitches or not, I don't even think it should come from the organization. Because the organization is probably they're already seeing that, hey, our numbers across the board have not dropped off a tick. As a matter of fact, we're even more popular after winning a World Series and he didn't pitch than when he was pitching. Mm-hmm. So for us, we'd prefer not to lose Shohei at all for any reason, let alone us having information that his shoulder might not work. He blows out his shoulder pitching and boom, he's out for another year. Because their numbers are going to go down if Shohei is out. Just from Japanese market alone, the Asian market alone. So I believe this decision, if it's even brought up, should be 100% left in Shohei's hands, and what he decides to do, that will be up to him. Again, if I can't even fathom, so even to put it relative terms to me, if you're telling me I'm signing a 4-year, $700,000 deal, how I am right now, I'm probably like, you know what? I'll just stick to this hitting thing because it's working, we're winning, and everybody's happy. I can not throw ever again. Like I said, going into the bullpen and having to throw, instead of throwing 140 pitches every 5 days, I'm only throwing 20 to 50 pitches, maybe twice a week.
Not even. Dude, do you imagine him coming out of the bullpen? Like, it's not even. You're going to talk about that guy's going to average probably 20 pitches an inning. Like, it's going to be insane.
Yeah,
it's going to be insane. Like, it's electric.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, he would top. Here's a hot take. He goes to a bullpen. It wouldn't be as long of a career, but his numbers would be better than Mariano Rivera's.
Honestly, because we saw a guy, and I don't know how much you watched of him, but we saw a guy be a dominant starter and then move to a closer role. And I think it would be just as dominant. I don't know if it would be more dominant, but John Smoltz.
Yeah.
Because John Smoltz, I watched him as a starter, and he was dynamic. He was like top 5 pitcher in the league for multiple years. And then I watched him. I remember watching Baseball Tonight when they announced that he was moving to the bullpen. I believe he's the only pitcher in the MLB history who has 100 wins and 100 saves in his career. And I believe it's
Really?
150, and I believe it's 150, 150. I could be wrong, but I believe John Smoltz is the only guy to have over 100 wins and over 100 saves in his career. And when John Smoltz moved to the bullpen for the Braves, he was like, because I remember them doing they would do the lights out like graphic on him when he would come out of the bullpen.
You're right. Only one pitcher in MLB history. So, you're actually right. It's 150 and 150. He had 216 wins and 151 saves in his career. Wow.
Yeah. So he's a guy that probably could have had 300 wins, but some knick-knacky stuff started coming up in his career, and they were like, hey, let's reduce your role and elongate your career. You'll make the same money and just move you to the bullpen. And he was, granted, he wasn't throwing 100, but he was throwing like 90, 95 to 98. But his slider was devastating. His changeup was even more devastating. He was basically Greg Maddux with a little bit less movement and a little bit less ball placement, but like 10 miles more miles per hour on every pitch.
Yes, it's actually crazy. So he's the only player that has over 200 wins and 150 saves in a career. But there are guys that have over 150 and 150.
Okay.
Those being Dennis Eckersley. Dennis Eckersley is the only other one that's done it. But guys that have had 100 and 100, Tom Gordon, Goose Gossage, and Raleigh Fingers also have done that. But, I mean, they had long careers. The other guy I'm surprised not on here is Kerry Wood. I figured Kerry Wood would have been close to that mark. He had to have been close, didn't he? Didn't Kerry Wood go into the pen for a period of time, like a short stint?
But it was too short of a stint.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, man, to see what happens with Shohei. I mean, regardless, the guy just absolutely rakes. Barry Bonds has said it, probably the greatest hitter of all time. So yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to watch that unfold in Los Angeles.
I for sure agree with you, buddy. Just to wrap it up, one more thing. I saw where Chris Paul was the first player in NBA history to play all 82 games at year 20 or not at year 20 season or more in his entire career.
Yeah.
And I think what makes that even wilder is, Chris Paul is he has been all throughout his career, he's been riddled. And not every single season, but there have been multiple seasons at the beginning, in the middle, and even towards the end where he's been hampered with a lot of hamstring injuries. He's always had trouble with his hamstrings, but just a lot of knick-knack injuries that have caused him to miss 2 games here, 4 games here. But I know for sure he's had a couple injuries that have caused him to miss more than 20 games in the season. So, first of all, big props to CP3. Honestly, and I know he peaked and got the Phoenix Suns to the finals a couple years ago. But honestly, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I wouldn't have thought Chris Paul would still be playing as long as LeBron James is. Because when you think of athlete, especially because he's such a small guy, I mean, he's 6 foot, which is not small, but it's small for the NBA.
Yeah.
But for a guy that's 6 foot and closer to 40 than he is 38, you just don't typically see those guys have longer careers. If a guy's going to be a long career, it's normally going to be a taller guy who's just like a forward or a center who's playing out that long. Especially because a lot of small guys, even like Allen Iverson, get beat up a lot going into the paint and all that good stuff. But what are your thoughts, man? What did you get from it? Are you happy to see it? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, man. Chris Paul gets a lot of hate. I think it's because he never won a chip. But I mean, he is a little corny with the State Farm stuff. Yeah. Let's just be honest. But I mean, dude, I thought it was cool. A guy in his 20th year is out here and he's playing all 82 games. There's something to be said for that. And I think, I like what the NBA did. I think it was, 2 or 3 seasons ago where they implemented the, 65-game threshold.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
To win awards. I like that. Absolutely. I think it's good. I think that you're building it in the right direction. It kind of goes back to the conversation that we had early on when the Four Nations hockey thing was going on. And the commentator said, you see these hockey players going in here with, a busted up wrist or some busted up ribs, and they're still gutting it out. I don't know, man. My one thing with the NBA is I wish it would get a little more physical. I know, the game has changed and, everything comes full circle, and I get that. But I think it's really cool to see a guy do that, and it's going – if you're an NBA fan – and you want the NBA to return to where people play every night and give the fans what they want, it's going to take guys like that with that mindset in the 20th season to go out there and play all 82 games. It's going to take those guys to set that tone and mold the NBA back into that form and make the NBA better and get the ratings back up and all that good stuff.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say one thing I have seen this year, and I know it started happening last year, but I think it's gaining more traction, is the one good thing about this young crop of stars. So a lot of guys, basically 25 and under. I would even, because Shay's older than 25. I think he's 26. So I would even throw Shay in there. I would say Shay and all the guys 25 and under is almost all of the guys who are stars or budding stars under the age of 25, all are taking great pride in playing every single night and playing every single night hard. I've heard Anthony Edwards talk about it extensively. If he's not physically injured, he's in the lineup. I've heard Cade Cunningham say it. Even though I know Paolo Banchero got hurt this year with an oblique injury, and so did Franz, and really hurt the Magic, and he was out for 3 months. But I know Paolo said it that unless he's physically hurt, he's not taking off a game. A big one I heard last night as well, and maybe he kind of got it from when CP was there. I heard Devin Booker, because the commentator after Devin Booker's last game asked him like, "D Book, Kevin Durant was out and Beasley was out, like." Why did you not take the game? Your seasons is done. It's like, and he's like, these fans pay a lot of money to come watch us play. And the Phoenix Suns fans have been great to me in my entire career. I can go out there and play one more game as hard as I can for them. Mm-hmm. And I know SGA plays every possible game he could play. I don't think he'd load manage one game. So one thing I think is good with the older generation, as great as some of them are, and I get it, LeBron, Kawhi definitely. Kawhi started it with Kawhi and Tim Duncan started it with Greg Popovich and Steph. Like, I get it because these guys are close to 40, and they probably actually do need it. But I'm glad this young crop of stars is really taking full-on accountability of playing every single night and playing as hard as they can, no matter if they're first in the conference, they're battling for placing in the conference, they're playing in a playing game, or even like Devin Booker, who is not going to make the play and not going to make the playoffs, still taking advantage of playing every single game, even beyond the awards.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I think if you were to really boil it down to the meat and potatoes of it all, I think it comes down to love of the game and not taking your abilities and what you've been blessed with for granted. I think that's what it boils down to, and I love to see it, man. I think the NBA is in a great direction. I think the young stars are going to make it better. I hated to see Jaylen Brown miss the last game of the season, and he wasn't eligible for any awards. But with that being said, I know that I got a news alert today that I think he was getting some injections in his knee to kind of get ready for the playoffs. Which, okay, like I can understand that. But at the same time, it's like, come on, man. Like, did you have to? Maybe. We don't know. We're not there. But you would have liked to have seen him do it for the awards, I guess. But I don't know. Kudos to Devin Booker, man, for saying that. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, man. It's about the fans. It's about putting on a good show. It's about going out there and, showing people that, hey, you're one of the best in the game. And I think that's what it boils down to these young guys is they want to prove, like, hey, I'm one of the best. Like, I can do this night in, night out. I'm not going to do this for 60 games. I'm going to do this for 82 games if I can. Yeah. So I love it, man. I'm all about it.
Yep. And one more name I'll throw in there that I thought of first and just didn't mention it was Jason Tatum. Because Jason Tatum I know I've seen a few statements from him in the last couple of years that he takes playing every night to heart because he knows the Celtics fans are great to him. NBA fans in general are great for him. And it's why I know a lot of people want him to be the face in the NBA, and I get why some people don't deem him to be. But he carries himself and traits himself and thinks of himself as that way. And I think you can't be the face of the NBA like MJ and Magic Johnson and even kind of share Larry Bird, and Kobe Bryant. You can't be the face of the NBA and take nights off. Mm-hmm. Whether you're injured. And we saw Kobe play left-handed for like 5 games when his right hand was broken. That's how serious he took it. Mm-hmm. And now we have guys that just don't play back-to-backs just so they can save themselves for a potential playoff run if they even get there.
Yeah, no, it's a mindset for sure, man. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I won't go into a soapbox, but I mean, my junior year, my head coach caught me 57 of 58 games. Like, you're talking double headers, 9 inning games, like, and it's just a mindset. It's,
Yeah.
you know, you want to get out there, you want to play, you love the game. And I think that's what it boils down to. And I think that, you know, this older generation kind of took it for granted a little bit, but this younger generation is not, and they want to prove that I'm the face, I can do this, let's ride.
Yeah, and even I'll throw one more stat in there, like that a personal story I have, because for me it's not even a feeling like I owe it. I just love playing. You know,
Hmm.
from ever since I start playing ball till even now, I still love playing slow pitch softball. I don't go out there and I still you saw me. I dove last year, and that was the first time
Hmm.
I had probably dove in 4 or 5 years. 315 pounds, but I still remember we had a football game canceled early in the season, my senior year, from a hurricane. And so, and of course, football's in the fall, but my primary
Hmm.
sport was still baseball, even though I was two-time All-State football player. So I played a football game versus our rival high school, which was like physically taxing, and I played safety and linebacker. So I played the football game Friday. We had a 2-day baseball tournament in Sarasota. So I left the football game to drive down to Sarasota. Played, I think, 4 games Saturday. We made it to the semifinals, so played 5 games Sunday. Then we had the makeup game on Monday. Drove back home, went to school, played. So in a matter of 4 days, I played 2 football games and 9 baseball games. My
Hmm.
dad still will tell that story to anybody who will listen to this day. It's one
Yeah.
of his favorite stories because he was the one that drove me to my 2 football games and was at all the baseball games that weekend.
Yeah. It comes from a love of the game, man. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, for sure. But man, this was fun. Not the biggest sports takes this week, but still a lot of fun. But this is what we're here about. We're here to cover all the sports, not just football, not just baseball, not just basketball. Like I said, we'll try to cover all the big events like the Masters, the U.S. Open, a World Cup, the Olympics in a few years. Hopefully, we're still doing this thing when Olympics roll around in L.A. And maybe if
Yeah.
we're big enough, maybe we can afford to go out to L.A. and do some podcasts from there. I don't
Hell
know. That's
yeah.
that's a big pipe dream, but hey, you got to have goals to work towards. We'll
Hell
speak
yeah.
it into existence.
That's right.
Man, this was fun. Good talking to you tonight. I'm gonna go hop in the ice bath and take some peptides, get my body right, and we'll catch y'all next time.
Absolutely. Peace.